think that's well put because, you know, if I take you back to 2010 as a comedian, there's this, let's be risky, right? Let's do dark humor. And under the guise of that, you just say stupid shit, right? and I'm saying this as someone who maybe, who might have done it. But when now I kind of go watch a comedian, or when I put on that hat, I'm like, what is the reason for that, right? Is it just to say, I can crack a rape joke, right? To be that one cool guy that people are like, he's anti-establishment. But I'm like, no, because see, the thing is that I haven't experienced it. I have nothing funny to say about it. So I'm thinking it through as a creator. But say I go for a show and someone's just being obnoxious about it because they're like, you know what, I have a mic, I can say whatever the fuck I want on stage because freedom of speech. It turns me off because there's no humor there. They're not doing it well. But when I watch someone really good at their craft, build up a sense of come along with me in this journey, I'll take you where I want to. And it's done well because even as a stand-up comedian, even though just a mic and words, you can build a beautiful journey where you can go to places which you wouldn't want to typically go to because it's not interesting or it's something which might make you uncomfortable. But when they do it well, that's the trick and that's the beauty of the art, right? Even as a playwright or a director.
I mean, you used a great word, craft.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel a lot of the craft is gone now because it's almost like you're not willing to give a chance to the craft. The moments are, and as a result, it's reactionary, right? The audience is like, "How dare you?" and the performer's like, "I'll show you," and that I feel is detrimental to the art.
I would partially agree with that because I also feel that getting on stage and using a string of bad words, a lot of people laugh at it, but I find that like what is its intention, right? Intention
it's a tool. What is it serving?
What is it serving? Because intention is a very important question in art. Is your intention to provoke me to do something about it? Is your intention to just attack me because you're on stage and you have the power to attack me? So the intention question is very important. Sometimes I get irritated with comedy or things where people are just using a string of bad language to no impact, to no effect. What is its impact? Why are you doing it? Does it shake me out of anything, or do you just sort of re-ascertain the status quo already? And I think, Sundeep, in the arts, whether it's stand-up comedy, whether it's music, theater, film, I think there has to be a certain grace. And by grace, I don't mean beauty necessarily. Like you can be really strong and hard-hitting, but there's a grace towards your audience.
Would that be also something you would use with interchange with dignity? The word grace?
I mean, it is, yes, you're right. I mean, they could be the same, the two sides of the same coin. But I feel like a grace to say that, okay, I disagree with you and I'll still clap. Or the performer saying that, oh, the audience didn't clap at me, but I will still give them grace and continue with my joke, something like that. I think dignity we all have. When I go on stage, I have a whole lot of dignity. The audience walks in, sits on the first row. They already have that dignity. But a grace of disagreement. Like I see too many stand-up comedians making fun of people for the sake of it. And also too many audience members dissing the person on stage because they may not fully understand what the person's saying. I feel grace on both sides. And grace in social media as well, because people are like attacking you. Again, it comes to shouting. Can I be graceful enough?
Translating to the live shows.
Yes.
No, I think that's the reason I asked is because there is a dignity in the way you present your dissatisfaction or your reaction, and I see and hear this sometimes. And again, my point of reference comes back to stand up. And again, this could be, fill in the blank here. It could be even an art gallery owner or whatever, right? If they're displaying certain artists who are controversial, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Or even the way J.K. Rowling has to defend herself when she has certain views on women's rights, and the attack that she comes under is just crazy. But what I mean by the way it's changed for me is that it's almost, as you said, it's shouting, right? Very antagonist. Like when you look at, say, shows that have been created which are purely for viewership, like American Idol or X Factor or The Voice. in many cases, there's no grace in it, right? It's and that's, I think that's really well identified by you. The word grace is, it's brought into this light where, they build this story. He was a homeless person till 50, and then he one day was singing out, saying, "Save me from garbage," and Simon Cowell found him, some crap thing. So I find that even in comedy, like, someone is telling me, like, now if 4 people come for the show, and it's a lineup of 10 comedians at an open mic, they all start going like, this sense of entitlement, like, I deserve a bit bigger crowd, and what are you for doing here? And they automatically start crapping on the audience. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you should be grateful that you have 4. Because 4 laughing clearly tells that 100 will laugh, or it's a sign of the fact that, you have people. And that was not there 10, 12 years ago when we started out. I wouldn't say we were the most grateful people back then, but we would appreciate every room because, we didn't have rooms that would say, come in freely for stand-up. But now, since it's on Netflix and Amazon, there's this entire shift, which happened for music many years back. Again, now musicians are humbled by the fact that, my God, they have a time for the biggest platforms for music, yet the independent artist is getting screwed over, right? And I think every art goes through its highlight and again crash and again comes up and goes down. I don't have a question. I'm just trying to understand the landscape of where we are as creators, because on one side now, a person creating beautiful, say, fine art is not given as much importance as, say, a YouTube content creator who's in their own universe, a celebrity, And then you have these influencers who call themselves artists, but what are they using as art, right? Is it the filters on Instagram, or is it the art of making something really short and catchy in 40 seconds, or creating something that can go viral, which people can copy? Like, clearly, sometimes that's why I asked you up top, like, what is art now? Because someone trying to do a bucket dance and that going viral is,
But Sundeep, yeah, sure. Like for me, this is how do I say? Because if a large number of people enjoy it, right? For a long time, it is. I'll tell you, it took me so long to call myself an artist because to be an artist, to say I'm an artist, is also a slightly elitist position, right?
But is it?
It is a privileged position to say who's an artist, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot financially. It takes a lot in terms of craft. And who am I to say somebody else is not an artist? Right?
That I agree with. But why is an artist perceived? And I'm not disagreeing. I'm asking you, why is an artist seen as a privileged position or a position of elitism?
If I'm saying it's a position of elitism if I say I'm an artist and you're not.
Okay, like
when I start to say only I'm an artist, like talking about the YouTubers, and I've thought of that quite a lot. I consume all of it. I watch a lot of YouTube. I also TikTok. So here's how I'm positioning it. So I think everybody should be an artist.
Yeah.
But in training, you will be like, no, but only some people have the craft to tell a story well, have the craft to make good music. And therefore, only some people are artists and some others are not. And as a young person, maybe I'd thought of it like that as well. And this is true of, let's say, classical music. You learn classical music for 22 years, 30 years, and then you're like, I will go and sing a song. They train heavily, and the others who sing pop music or do karaoke are not artists. Now, I think that has changed in the last 7 to 8 years because of social media, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it has taken us closer to the population, to the common person. And I want to imagine that that's also allowed, that's also legitimate, because the minute I or somebody like myself or like us becomes the purveyor of what is art, what is not, there's a censorship. There is a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I do not ever want to become is the person who becomes the gatekeeper of hierarchy.
Absolutely. Yeah. In that position, I got what you meant by elitist.
Because then there might be a danger that we lose something. That we say more like it's only people like us. And when you start saying people like us, that's very dangerous.
That's when it becomes these terms being thrown around like nepotism. Only certain people who have access get to create, which I think the internet has done a great job of leveling the playing field. In fact, I think it's swung to the other side now, where if you are coming from this as an outlier, or from the outfield, from a place earlier not accepted, you are in fact more celebrated, because I think that's just how the pendulum swings, right? There is a certain overcorrection that happens when for years it's only a few people and their cousins and their kids who get a chance to create, especially say Bollywood or the film industry. And you see that, which is great. Yeah.
And I also hear the other side, because I see the amount of, how to say it politely, amount of not good material there is out there, and not good is putting it gently.
You mean the bullshit that people pass off as comedy? Yeah, I can say, don't worry about it. If you don't feel like saying it, I'll say it. The crap that you're forced to consume under the guise of humor is absolute trash.
Yeah, the tribe there is like humor, there's content, like, and I also feel that there's a danger to that. There's a danger when you just put on your camera and are ranting, and it's reaching millions of people. Because the young person who's 13 years old watching it and you saying something against women or a certain community has an impact. That's what I meant by intention. What is your intention? There's a great book called The H-Bomb, written by Kunal Purohit. It's about pop in a certain kinds of pop music, pop poetry, and pop publishing in a world that is small town India, that is Hindi speaking, and the impact it has. A song can go viral overnight. So I think I say this with caution, that of course it should be open to everyone, but at the same time, the amount of influence, and that word influencer is actually not to be used lightly.
And that's what scares me, right? When you have someone today promoting, maybe it's a pretty woman or a fit guy or whatever it may be, right? And today they're talking about how they got fit, which is their story, which they're absolutely entitled to talk about. But tomorrow they're promoting weight loss powders. Tomorrow they're promoting this thing about anti-animal cruelty. I'm like, okay, these are good messages, but how, when that power goes to your head, next thing, what path will you go down? And you spoke about this messaging, like people talk about how the black population in America was oppressed for many years, which, again, I'm not an expert. I don't want to go down that path, but when
they were oppressed. I mean, that is true. I mean,
no, not about, of course, the oppression. Yes. No, what I'm talking about, the resulting reactionary movement. I'm not, of course, I'm not going to be a slavery denier, because
exactly.
What I meant by, I don't want to go down that path is that's a very deep and, it's a conversation for another day. But when it doesn't mean you can excuse the messaging in certain rap songs, the ones filled with violence and hate and against, whether it's against women, whether it's against police, whether it's this thing. I'm just saying, where do we draw the line, right? Because someone can say, yeah, but they experience it, so they have to talk about it. And as a result, if you have it now through people watching those YouTube videos of those rap songs or those lyrics being played over and over again because of access through these platforms, and someone says, I'm going to do that by doing it in Bengali or Hindi. So it is still art, and I would not like to censor that. But what does that involve, right? Because as you said, if it's repeatedly being played to an uninformed mind, an immature mind, say someone who's 45 sitting in an IT company. I wouldn't say young, I'd say mature, who's 45 sitting saying,
good point.
And I think that's, again, like, again, I'm not the gatekeeper, as you rightly pointed out. None of us should be the gatekeeper. But you have someone now saying, oh, because this movie had, 5 F words, we're going to censor it. But someone showing something inflammatory under the guise of ideological progress, they would say, what is, what should and what shouldn't be censored, or should anything at all be censored?
I mean, from an artistic point of view and idealistically, I would say things should not be censored.
Yeah.
But I work with young people, so I also know the kind of impact some kind of lyrics have, or some kind of art, or popular culture, let's say. I think that's a much more better word for this kind of conversation that we're having about these particular things can have. Sundeep, I'd like to say that censorship is not good for us, because censorship can go either way. If I say censorship is okay, tomorrow my words will be curtailed. That day won't be far. I don't think it is far, where a sort of liberal persona like mine will be curtailed. So I'll put myself out there and say there should not be censorship.
Yeah.